Oh, well, what the heck? I'm doing another video tonight. Before I wasn't going to do a video showing this whole process, but I am now. Before we lose our lid again, I did briefly talk about this earlier. Y-wing engine, getting the start of a Y-wing engine. Of course, you know I'm going to need two. I've gone forward with some more of these orange lids from the pill bottles, and there's another type of bottle that has this weird cap. And I've gotten a couple of those and glued them. Alrighty. So that gives me a place to go later. There's the tip of the motor, the engine, the thrust going out. There will be a stick here, 4 pieces that are very flimsy that just kind of tail out and bring this tail section way out there. And that's going to be an entire engine, right? Anyone who knows what a Y-wing looks like, I think you're feeling me here. I think you see exactly what I'm talking about with that. So, to get that, the bulk of that, as you can see I've got plenty of these laying around. I got a bucket of them. So, you take your Febreze or whatever freshener you choose to use. They're just about all the same. And I'm using these ones with that lid. I've already popped it off of there, which is why it's not wanting to stay on. Anyway, you just get a hold of this thing and just give it a good yank until it finally pops off of there. It'll pop off of this whole rim and everything. It's all that stuff there. Now, you can go further and tear all this apart. I recommend tearing all these parts out, saving them, because they can all be reused and turned into other things. Like here we go. Just each part individually. Each part individually has its own unique design that, when taken away from its source and out of context, breathe its own little ideas of what it can be. So, I mean, if I had a handful of these, could you imagine those things kind of sprouting out of the side of something like a droid with weird arms and stuff? Or could that somewhere down the line become, part of a landing gear holding a part together? Could that be like an imaginary elbow? A little piece of detail? Who knows? But that's why we save all that stuff. Even this funny little rabbit here, like this thing to me, I see that and I immediately think I can make a seat or a secondary seat to a number of speeder bikes, because they're built in rail form, which means they have a tubular motor, tube, and greeble sort of assembly. So all this stuff gets tore down and recycled, and then this, it already is a lid of something, but I mean, it can be flipped around and seen that way. If it were sticking out like that with some stuff in the middle of that, you could probably almost imagine that becoming something. Or it could be a Black Series toilet lid. About the right size toilet lid for a Black Series figure. Imagination. Not my fault, I think, of these things. It's my imagination's fault. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the next step. So you got the lid off. You're down to here. This still has a little bit in it. And if I put my thumb on there, it will somewhat squirt some of this out. Just want to go ahead and do because it smells nice. But I want to get all this decoration off of here. So what you do is I just take my X-Acto knife and I just get on the edge and just kind of get it in between the plastic and the overlap, and you'd be able to cut a little spot in there and then peel it back. And then I don't want to damage the plastic, so I try to cut away from it, like try to get in here like this and try to cut, pull up and cut and pull up and cut like that. Try not to scar underneath if I don't have to. Not that I can't fill it in with something later. And it's kind of slippery and falling out of my hands because of the liquid that was in there being kind of soapy. And yeah, I got a case of dropsies with that. So that's what we're left with. Sorry, you had to get off of camera for a second there. It's got this weird piece on the bottom. So what's that all about? Very much the same thing. This time I'm just going to kind of back and forth a couple times. What it is it's hot glue. In the factory, they just put hot glue and they smash it down in there. And then it doesn't want to let go. It's like a really high quality hot glue that has a really almost like sonic weld kind of quality to it. So I don't remember how I did this before without beating the crap out of it with a hammer, but for the sake of not wanting to spend too much time reefing on it, I want to get a hammer to beat the shit out of it instead. Just remember, I did it all for the Wookiee. The Wookiee. So you can take that cookie and stick it up your... Here we go. Hopefully we're breaking some of that glue bond. Oh, yeah, it's getting looser. There we go. So, just beat it. Now, this is a real pliable piece. So, it's okay to smack on that a little bit. This even if you bend it and stuff, you can salvage that if you fuck it up a little bit. So, I got a couple of them. This one's in worse shape than the other one. But now, everything's better in pairs. You know what I'm saying? What's that look like? Yeah, you know, that could be some crazy C-3PO eyes later on down the road. And that look like some weird droid's eyes. It's like turning back and forth. Lots of fun. Okay, so now we're here. See? We're almost there. So what did I have to do? Okay, so this plastic ring here, that part, not this metal piece, and not this curved piece that goes into the bottle. This little ring right here, I want to keep that. But what I want the spout and this copper colored metal ring part of it, I want that gone. So this is where my Dremel comes in, and it's tricky because I got a lot of liquid in here. Compared to what I had in this one, I only had a little tiny bit in the bottom. This one, there's a shot glass or more in there. So this is where the good quality Dremel comes in play. I ramp that up to 15 on that speed. And it goes up to, I think, 50? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going up to 15 on my rotation speed on this particular model. And I'm using this cutoff wheel, which is, it's got a little bit of life left on it, but pretty soon it's going to get down where they're usually a little bit bigger than that. If you can see, that's a brand new one. And yeah, they're, pretty good size. So there's a lot of life in these things. But yeah, There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just underneath of this, I want to get that off of there. There we go. I have to get my first cut, but I get in here where it's going to spray if I do it too much. So I want to do this where I can get it on camera, see what I'm doing, and also have some solid grip on what I'm doing. I want to make a clean cut, which is hard to do. So 15 might be a little too high. We're down to 10. Yep. All right. So I'm going to speed it back up and do some of it over here where I can pivot. I have to sit and do it. There's just no way. All right, here we go. What it is you have to be able to triangulate your object in your tool as far as you're holding it. Not triangulate. I'm actually holding it, but I need to create a triangle in my arms and legs are right now serving that purpose. Gives me more stability where I'm not running out of my a cut with the saw walking me out of my cut. It's still not easy to do, but yeah, whew. I got all the way around it. And the more that gets out, the slippier it gets. And that's dangerous. That's a dangerous maneuver right there. So anyway, all that. Now this goes in the greeble bin over there. It can dry off. I want to save this plastic tube. As you know, it's obviously useful material. I'll stuff that in a big bucket of shit that we got over there. Big buckets of stuff over there. All full of greebles. There we go. I'm back up to a table full of junk. Oh, no, just a touch. Okay, so there we go. Ready? We're ready? What's your favorite drinking song? Let's do it now. No, I'm not gonna do that. Pouring it out. What do you think? I'm crazy? I am, but I'm not that crazy. There's a difference between crazy and ignorant. What that difference is, I couldn't tell you. I just know there's a difference. It might be a very fine line. Oh, this is the easy part. Just taking a lot of this excess off with this little mini sander here. It's just abrasive enough to just knock a lot of that stuff right off of there. And also kind of clean it up at the same time. And you can get like a nice little bevel. This is also good for getting rid of a lot of your sharp edges. You have to sometimes like remove the material. It's like plastic. It melts, but then sometimes remelts to itself. This is kind of tricky to shape with. You have to take that into consideration when you're cutting it. It fluffs up a lot. All right, that's good. For the rest, we have sandy paper. I do spot the rubbing alcohol. A good idea to get rid of the rest of that soap in there is put about I don't know, a couple thimblefuls of rubbing alcohol in here and shake it around. Martini, anybody? All right, there we go. There, see, that's all I put in there. And then stick that, dump it right out. I got a little trash basket over here. It's got everything from cardboard, pieces of paper, some inserts that are no longer good for a pair of shoes, you know, old labels, garbage, just junk. Mostly absorbable, so I'm just dumping that in there with the rest of this stuff. That's where that went. So now that's nice and clean. It's got most of that soapiness out of there. It smells like a martini. I'm going to set this off to the side. This one still had some soap in it, so I want to go ahead and clean this one the same way. Maybe a little more. There we go. A little more juice back. There we go. All right. Getting that same thing. Same thing. Just want to make sure I get all the rest of that soap out of there. Even though this one I've already done a little gluing on. Let's set that like so it can drain. And then, yeah. One of these guys is already ready for that. It's already ready, Freddy. So, super duper glue. There's these little tabs on there. I'm going to get each one of those and then try to get the rim edge of that at the same time. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I'll look down while I'm doing it and make sure it's on camera. I'm just doing each one of these tabs as I go around. Try not to drip, but it's all right too. It's not going to ruin it. All right, so that's good. That's good for that. I'm going to set this guy down. Now I just need this. Before I make the two connections, I want to make sure I have my zip kicker. I got the lid off and my baking soda for this little spot. Super glue is still wet. I'll just sit this down in there, give it a turn. All right, now I'm just gonna let that sit for just a second. I want this baking soda. I'm gonna start dropping the baking soda on the edge. And what that'll do is start creating a gusset. I'm gonna go ahead and put some more super glue in here and just let it run down. Let that run in a full circle. And it's kind of wicking its way into all those little spots. I just kind of watch the glue drip its way around the edge there. I don't want it to run up, which I just accidentally did. Now I can take the baking soda and start raining it down on there. You'll see it'll go into where the super glue is and fill that space. No, I can even go with a little bit more glue. Glue is just going to go soak into that as I'm going around here. And this glue is just about spent. This particular bottle anyway. There we go. And there's another drop or two in there. That's about it. All right. Sit there for a second. Oh, there it is. There. I open up another glue. These are fortunately the ones when you screw them on, it breaks the seal, which is nice. Because then when you take the cap off, you don't have to punch. You don't have to do that thing where you punch in on it and get it all over your fingers. You usually end up working with these small, non-industrial size things of super glue. They're easy enough to get. It's only like $1.25 for a 2-pack, which isn't the end of the world. I can drop like $30, $40 on super glue in the middle of the winter, and that can get me all the way into the spring, into the summer sometimes, depending on how much building I do. All right. Now, zip. There. Those are my boosters. So you can see where we're going. They're going to be about yay so far apart with some kind of a fuselage in the middle. Bobby, we got ourselves a ship coming in here. We're going to have us a couple of boosters. Schmoosters. 23 minutes on these stupid boosters. But as you can see, we got all the pieces, parts we need to do what we're going to do. And that's just, they don't have to be boosters. These things could be on the outside of a building in a diorama with a vacuum hose going into each of those and into the top of the building for no apparent reason. And then they could be painted whatever color with a stripe around the side. And you'd think it was something, as long as it was, whatever. They can become anything you want them to become. These are destined to become a Y-wing. But you can go get yourself some Febreze, get the stank out of your house, and save your Febreze containers and make yourself some boosters. Or some, science fiction weird looking light bulbs or some kind of weird Doctor Who robot with things sticking out of its ears. Whatever you want to do with it, you do it. This is what I'm doing with it. And I'm doing it my way. I did lose my part. It's down here somewhere. So, yeah. And just, yeah. I saved my buckets from my Black Series figures I did recently. because they are beautiful little containers for, as I'm tearing things apart, more greebles present themselves. As none of this would be if I hadn't tore a couple helicopters apart and stuff, and there's like leftover bits and pieces of a V-wing fighter in there. I tore one apart. Yeah, fuck that V-wing. I tore it to pieces and used all its pieces to make other shit out of. Oddly enough, I should do that on another video, but parts of the V-wing that I tore apart to use for stuff, parts of it are going to be used to create a Jedi Starfighter type ship, which is odd because the Jedi Starfighter in lore was born out of the research done on the V-wing. Yeah, so anyway, some Star Wars shipbuilding stuff, according to what I saw on the internet. Anyway, my V-wing is pieces apart. So now, yeah, Black Series gives me these little things sometimes, and they're great for putting some of this stuff in and keeping it from sliding around on the desk and making a mess. It's a lot easier to pick up this bucket now and get all that out of the way, and then cleans up at least another couple inches on my desk. So I think I'm all done. 26 minutes on that. It's too much time, but I'll get better. I swear.